We have lots to discuss in today's video as we're now just one day away from the Four Nation tournament break. We have lots of trade talk leading into this, including talk around the Montreal Canadiens, potential trade between the Flyers and the Maple Leafs, the St. Louis Blues, and Detroit Red Wings. Also, with lots of chatter here this evening. Plus, we have big news from the NHL waiver wire, several key injury updates as well, including Penguins captain Sidney Crosby, Canucks captain Quinn Hughes, and several others, and a big update as well on Matt Barzal with the New York Islanders. All that and a whole lot more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in today's video, where it's a Saturday night. We have a couple games tomorrow on Super Bowl Sunday, early in the day, of course, because of the Super Bowl. And then we're officially on NHL hiatus for a bit as the Four Nation Face-Off Tournament kicks off this coming week. Of course, teams will be gathering in Montreal on Monday, and I believe the first action comes a couple days later. So first up news tonight from the waiver wire, which we discussed in a video earlier tonight, but in case you missed it, the Penguins and Jesse Puljujarvi have agreed to end his tenure with the club. He is going on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination with both parties, which would have had to have agreed to. So Puljujarvi will become an unrestricted free agent tomorrow afternoon and be able to sign anywhere else. He's put up 9 points in, I believe it's 26 games, I think it is, for Pittsburgh this year. And he did go down and clear regular waivers earlier in the past week or so and went and played a few games in the minors. But I guess they've decided that he might have a better opportunity somewhere else to continue his career. Not quite sure what or where that's going to be. There really hasn't been any speculation about where he may sign, or even if it's in the NHL. We'll have to wait and see on Puljujarvi. Utah also has on regular waivers for the purpose of being assigned to the minors, Vladislav Kolyachuk on waivers as well. Everybody that was on waivers yesterday cleared, including Colin White of the Sharks, who's been reassigned today to the American Hockey League. The Sharks have also reassigned and activated Klim Kostin back, so he's back with the big club. The Carolina Hurricanes today had an early matinee game did not get Mikko Rantanen in the lineup. He did sit out due to a injury. There was some speculation because there's been some trade talk around him about the possibility that maybe Carolina won't be able to sign him and may trade him again before the deadline. But that, I'm not really going to put a lot into that. I think anything's possible. And if they feel like they can't sign him, I understand why they would do that. But for right now, it's a little bit early. That was just a precautionary reason. Still, at this point, it's believed he's expected to go represent Finland at the Four Nation tournament. So we'll see. But Rantanen was out today, injury related, nothing to do with the trade. The Penguins are, of course, tonight without Crosby again. So Crosby's still out. Brian Russ has been moved into IR. The Penguins also recalled Vasily Ponomarev, so he's in the lineup this evening. New Jersey, of course, they're now done for the break, so they've sent Nico Dawes and Simon Nemec back to the American Hockey League as well. That way they can continue playing while the 2-week break is on. Vancouver picked up a big win tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs, again without Quinn Hughes. The captain of the team has missed his 4 straight games. I believe it's an oblique injury he's dealing with, and his questionable, I guess his participation in the Four Nation tournament is still questionable. We should find out, if not this evening, then tomorrow, about his whether or not he's going to play and his availability. I know same thing goes for Crosby. The thing, I guess, that I know with Crosby that they're considering is that if you look at the schedule of games, the way the Canada schedule for Crosby is they'd have a game, I believe it's Wednesday, and then they don't play for like a week. So he could have lots of time to kind of heal up whatever is bothering him. So, maybe Crosby doesn't pull out of the tournament. Maybe he doesn't suit up for the first game. And maybe he plays games 2 and 3, and hopefully in the championship game if they make it there. So, obviously for a guy like Quinn Hughes, the same sort of scenario. If he thinks that, being able to, because they have 7 defensemen and 13 forwards, right? So, these teams, if they have an extra body that they think they can play but need a little time, there's going to be time between games. So it's not a given that they need to pull out of the tournament per se, but the Canucks and Penguins seem to be leaving these decisions up to the players, and we will see where things go from there. Matt Barzal, a big update on him today from Pierre LeBrun. Of course, we know he had a knee injury, a pretty serious one at that, something to do with the kneecap. Apparently he had a procedure, so he did have surgery, and based on what we know on the surgery, generally speaking, the recovery time is 6 to 8 weeks. So at this point, I think it's fair to say that his regular season may not be done, but it's going to put it past the trade deadline. So at this point, the trade deadline is about 4 to 5 weeks away. Actually, about 4 weeks away. So you've got about a month to the trade deadline. If it does drag on to the point where it's closer to the 8 weeks, then it's kind of getting close to the end of the regular season. I don't think, based on what we've heard and seen, that it's necessarily season ending, but if the Islanders they fall out of the race or something, he may not feel the need to rush back. So either way, he's going to miss the bulk of the regular season for sure. But that's all we know so far. Rangers goalie Igor Shesterkin did suffer an injury as well and is expected to be out a couple of weeks. Of course, because of the Four Nation tournament, he may not miss a whole lot more time. So we will see about that injury, but that could be key for the Rangers. If for any reason he's not ready to go when they come back from break, it could be something that's plays a big role here with the team. And another goalie we're watching here, as well as Canucks goalie Thatcher Demko, made to start tonight against the Maple Leafs, but after only about 10 minutes was out. Even in warm-up, you could look like, if you watch him carefully, it looked like he might have tweaked something or was having some discomfort or something. Tried to play, took himself out of the game. There was nothing to do with his performance. They had a 1-0 lead. He went over to the bench even before that, talked to Rick Tocchet, and you could see he was kind of letting him know that, I'm not quite right. I might have to come out, and that's what happened. So obviously Demko's health, could be critical here. I mean, Lankinen's played extremely well for Vancouver. I don't think without him they're not in a playoff spot. But again, if he's out any length of time, if he's not ready to go when a team comes back from the Four Nation break, could be a substantial thing. I think if Demko had been healthy this year, he probably would have been on Team USA. Hard to say which goalie wouldn't have been there because they've got so many good ones. Hellebuck by far leading the way. I suspect he'll probably get the bulk of the playing time, but between Jake Ottinger, Jeremy Swayman, obviously, there's an opportunity there for them to get a little bit of action in, possibly. Hard to say how things would have went. I mean, right now, out of the three, Swayman's probably having the least good season, I guess you could say. So I would say if Demko would have bumped somebody, it probably would have been him, but we'll have to see how this tournament goes. But for Demko, he'll be sitting at home watching, trying to get healthy here once again. Now, our Blues defenseman Ryan Suter appeared in game number 1,500 tonight, which is a phenomenal achievement. 22nd player ever in the NHL history to achieve that much of games played, so that's phenomenal for him. And he's the only active player to currently have that many games on his resume. So congrats to Ryan Suter as well for having such a long, lengthy career. Even though he's been bought out a few times, he still seems to keep on going, keep on ticking. A couple other quick injury updates as well. The LA Kings tonight also had to place Mikey Anderson on injured reserve. Phoenix Copley was recalled due to Darcy Kemper being unavailable tonight due to personal reasons. So that's unfortunate there as well in Los Angeles. And one other quick update as well. Joel Eriksson at Minnesota missing tonight's game against the New York Islanders. So that's a big blow for them. But as I record this video, they do have a 5-3 lead. But we'll see if that score holds up. Now on to the rumor mill. We got a variety of things to talk about. Earlier today, there were reports that the Philadelphia Flyers and trade talks around forward Scott Laughton were heating up. It's believed the Toronto Maple Leafs have been the front runners there. They've been linked to this player for quite a while, but a lot of the reports we had heard over the last several weeks was that the Flyers were not necessarily sold or set on moving Laughton. His name has been in and out of the rumor mill really for the last couple of years around the trade deadline. There's been a number of teams that have been linked to him. Obviously a player who's, I think you could say he's pretty versatile. You could put him in a variety of spots in your lineup, play different roles, different special teams. So I see why teams like him. His cap hit's not too crazy. It's supposed to be, from what we hear of him, a good character guy, good leader around the room, that type of stuff. So lots to like. So I understand the appeal, and the Flyers have been pretty set on obviously keeping some veterans around as they go through this rebuild. And well, maybe things appear to maybe have changed according to the last reports here that we're hearing, that they may have finally made the decision that they are willing to move them if the prices are what they want. Like I said, with Brad Tree living in the Maple Leafs, been looking for that middle six center, and maybe Laughton turns out to be the guy. I mean, like I said, for Laughton's probably more of a 3 than a 2, but the prices on a number 2 center is probably quite high right now. It's believed, though, that the Leafs are considering, if they're going to make a move around bringing in a top forward to bolster this lineup, that a player like Fraser Minten might be the piece they move. I mean, I know a guy like Nick Robertson is certainly somebody they would entertain moving as well, but teams might not like Robertson as much as a guy like Minten or Cowan. I said it before with the Leafs, if they're going to pull off a big addition to their lineup this year, as much as they may not want to, guys like Minten and Cowan might have to be that trade piece that's used. So we'll have to wait and see if things materialize here, but that's the latest intel, that things are intensifying, heating up around a Laughton trade, and it appears like Toronto is a likely destination. But again, that's not a foregone conclusion. The deal's not done. At least as I record this video, it's not. And we will see where things go from there. Dave Pagnotta of the fourthperiod.com was reporting that the St. Louis Blues are looking at several players on their team. And then Elliot Friedman on headlines on Hockey Night in Canada tonight reiterated a lot of the same kind of intel, suggesting that they're willing to talk about a lot of players. We talked the other day about the fact that Braden Shen's name has been out there in the rumor mill as well, but it sounds like he's technically available, but they want a lot for him, and it seems probably a little bit more unlikely that teams may not be willing to pay the price. I mean, yeah, they like Braden Shen. They'd love to get him on their team, but they may not be willing to give up the asking price. The price is high. But the Blues, according to the latest intel, want to remove a contract, give themselves a little bit more flexibility, whether it's Pavel Buchnevich, who's entering a new extension that he signed not long ago with St. Louis. Could it be him? Could it be Shen? But another name to watch, according to Pagnotta, was Jordan Kyrou. Now, like I said, a couple of years back, GM Doug Armstrong kind of made mention with all the changes they'd made that they kind of handed over the reins here to the team to guys like Thomas and Kyrou. And unfortunately, they haven't quite cut it. Now, Thomas has had a bit of a down year, missed some time with injury, and that certainly played a role in his season here. But Kyrou is a name to watch. And now, when we talked yesterday about potential Islanders Canucks trade, about Noah Dobson's name being kind of floated out there, St. Louis is another team that I think would like Dobson, and a Dobson for Kyrou trade is something that I could see maybe materializing. Maybe not necessarily 1-for-1, maybe, I'm not sure, but something along those lines would not shock me. Would not shock me. Now, the Blues have a lot of defensemen, but I can see them going into next year. They've been wanting to retool that blue line for a while. We've seen them move up Perunovich now. They brought in Fowler. They're slowly picking away at trying to do this. We know Torrey Krug may not play again. He may be done with them. So, there's a lot of, moving parts and things that are not, for sure yet. But, again, Kyrou might be a name to watch. And if not at the deadline, then into the offseason. I don't know if this is a Dobson or Kyrou trade. It's something we see before the deadline, but it is something that we could see a little bit further. According to some reports as well, and Dave Pagnotta was one of them talking about this, is that Joel Armia, I guess I should say, the Habs is actually generating a lot more interest. Now, we reported back, I think in the last week, there was one suggestion about Armia and Evans being traded as a package deal, being somebody who's used to playing together. I can play in shorthanded situations, kill penalties, dangerous shorthanded, and that teams may like that. But for a lot of teams, it's going to be challenging just because it's 2 contracts. It's, a fair bit more money. Montreal's probably not going to retain money on both of them. That's probably fair to say. So it's it's a difficult situation with them. I mean, both guys could be moved. And we've seen the recent, 8 games have the Habs going 1-6-1 after having, I think it was a 15 or 16 game stretch where they were pretty hot and got themselves back into a playoff mix. They did hold down a wild card spot for a brief period of time, a day or two. I can't remember how long it was, but they were there. And then, like I said, this recent skids now put them back. And it's, I think, looking at the wild card team as being Ottawa and Detroit right now. I think they're 5 or 7 points behind those guys. So, that might not sound like a lot, but it is a lot to overcome. So, Montreal likely does go into seller mode after the break, and Armia has finally got better value. They've been trying to move Armia for a couple of years. It's nice to see that he kind of has found a better role and has been able to kind of capitalize and have a better season. I know there's some Habs fans that like to see him return, but they need to slowly move out some of the veterans, like between Armia, Dvorak. Like they can't bring all these guys back. And after the season they're having, I think it's fair to say that they need to continue to allow some of their youth to grow and develop while, changing the mix a little bit here as well. They have enough youth that if they can get Demidov into this lineup next year, he'll be an exciting piece to really help them, kind of take the next step here, hopefully. But Armia is generating a good amount of interest, which is good for them. And he's like I said, can play in all situations, good on the PKs, got pretty good size. Good skater, his contract's not terrible, $3.4 million. If you can get some salary retention on that and knock it down further, it'd be even better. So we'll see. Armia hasn't necessarily been linked to a specific team yet, just that there's lots of teams kind of kicking tires at this point. And lastly, one of the names that came up on headlines Sunday was Elliotte Friedman, which was a bit of a surprise. And he even mentioned it as a surprise when he first was hearing some of the rumors and whispers around him. But apparently, even though they're in a playoff spot right now, they're hanging on by a thread. It's such a tight race in the Eastern Conference. You get Ottawa and Detroit as the two wildcard teams, and they've got a number of teams, including Columbus is right there. Islanders aren't far back. There's a lot of teams right nipping at their heels. So even though the Red Wings are in a playoff spot, Friedman's reporting that there is some chatter around the future of Vladimir Tarasenko. Now, Tarasenko, of course, played last year in Ottawa, was a pretty good fit. But, of course, once it became, apparent that they weren't making the playoffs, they traded him to Florida for a cup run, which obviously, worked out. And then from there, he wasn't able to stay. He signed a 2-year deal in Detroit. Now, I'm surprised he had the second year. And the main reason here is even though it's not like they're trying to be sellers, it's just that they're not really convinced at this point, maybe between the player and the team, that it's a great fit. But that second year on the contract might prove challenging. Like when he signed in Ottawa, you get a 1-year deal. You could say it was a bit of an overpayment, but, they got him to go. And Ottawa, made it work, but it was a 1-year deal. Then it goes to Detroit. That second year, though, I was a little surprised he get the 2-year deal this time around. Not that he's, really severely downgraded. Like, he can still play, but, he's certainly not Tarasenko that he once was, and you're not going to be getting 30 to 40 goals or anywhere near that. You're probably at best getting a 20-goal season, maybe even 15. Somebody who can play more of a third-line role. But he embraced what he had in Ottawa. And to be honest, Ottawa needs a forward right now too. So if it wasn't for the contract, I would suspect they might be interested. But I don't see that being a fit now, not contract-wise. But at the end of the day, Tarasenko might find himself on the move. He does have some protection in his contract, so he will have some say over this. I would suspect if Detroit does that, then they'll use the space to go find something else to add to their lineup, because they're certainly not going to be a team that subtracts right now, given that they're in the right in the thick of things here in a playoff race. But let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.